Even your name can go away for these 2 hours if you dare. Right, so we'll blah blah on some incredible concepts around what you could be, and you have to take that on and play to your edge, to your limit, because every imprint counts. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and imprints in your mind will generate your experience in your mind of who you are and where you are. So in these 2 hours we're going to pretend that we're perfect or aiming towards perfect or edging. Let the distractions wait outside, the objections about you being normal or this won't be me, I could never be that. That can be outside with all the other New Yorkers, okay? Because when we walk back out there, you can pick them up and enjoy being miserable. So we first begin by making a perfect offering of a perfect world. Buki Jishin Retop Tran Rirabling Shin Yinde Embody Sange Shindu Mite Vivari Robin Namda Shinla Chipasho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamiryatayami Shidam Zogi Shobnamla Janchu Bardu Dagni Apsuji Dagi Shenyengi Petsonamgi Rola Benchir Sange Rinpasho Chidam Sogi Choknamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuji Dagi Shunyangi Pesonamki Drola Benchir Sange Drupasho Shidam Sogi Choknamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Dagi Shenyengi Pesonamki Drola Benchir Sange Drupasho. No, that was
okay, sorry.
You were really into it. That was good. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So, I'm just going to tell you what the meditation is today. I'm not going to do it with you. But we'll do a similar meditation. By the end of this class, you'll understand this. This thing called 3 degrees of emptiness or suchness. And it comes in the second highest school of philosophical thinking around what emptiness, what the ultimate nature of things is, the middle way independent school we talked about last week. Yeah, so we're going to go in there and dig around, and it's actually a really difficult thing to do. Even Tsongkhapa had a really difficult time trying to understand all the levels of what this school meant by emptiness. Yeah. And why is that important? You have to have a correct understanding of emptiness to turn the key on this engine you've been building in this class. If you don't know how to turn it on, ultimately it won't turn on. You'll get some benefits from practicing these things, but if you're missing a view that is the highest view, a large percentage of your world might turn, but not all of it. You might reach a lower nirvana, won't be enlightenment. Yeah? To put it in some familiar terms. So that's why the big deal, the conversation shifted, right? In this class, we've been talking about how to interpret the Buddha's teachings, his words, whether they were literal or figurative, in all the three broad ways he explained everything. The most important thing he explained was the nature of existence, hence the idea of emptiness. So the highest school, the middle way, Majjhimika Prasangika, who is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Nagarjuna, Ken Rinpoche, Holy Geshe Michael, have a specific view of what that means. That's considered to be the highest view, put together or rounded up from the ancient schools of India by Tsongkhapa. Yeah? So that's a specific view. And that view is all-encompassing, it's magnificent, but very subtle and difficult to apply. And then throughout the ages, there had been all these different ways to interpret the Buddha's teaching. And some seemed contradictory, so we thought, well... So then this whole debate started about how to interpret what the Buddha really meant, specifically around the nature of things. Yeah. So do you remember what the three in the mind-only school, which is mainly the school we've been studying here, they perceive the three turnings of the wheel, or the three ways that the Buddha gave an explanation of everything, and you could group them into three ways, right? So you tell me what they are, and then I'll try and put it in real terms. What are the three turnings of the wheel saying? What was the first turning saying?
Everything exists by definition.
Yeah, so you want to figure out what's causing your shitty job, or your mental illness, or your depression, or your happinesses, or the joys, or anything at all in this world. You want to figure that out? You want to figure out where Stephen is sick? That's what you mean? Yeah. You can go around and move the external parts of you, the self-existent parts, right? And these things out there, and move them around, and if you get just the right arrangement, you can fix them, because things have a nature. Sickness has its own nature. It's sickness from its own side. Yeah? Nothing to do with you. Then the Buddha went and said, in the second turning, nothing. There is no sickness. What? I'm sick. There's no sickness. You know, I'm sick. No, there's no sickness. Right? And that was supposed to get people to a certain understanding of the ultimate nature of everything. There's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no forms or sounds or smells or tastes or touches or dharmas at all. No realm of eyes, until we come to no mind consciousness realm. No ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, no death, no dying, no not dying. What the hell are you talking about? He's pointing at his eye going, there's no eye. No ear. He's pointing at his ear. Some people understood that. Yeah? And went, whoa, I get it. Boom, realizations, entered the path, became enlightened. Some people. Other people, like the Bodhisattva who started this whole problem, said, wait a minute, I don't understand. You just said things had a nature. If I want to not get sick, I've got to go and make sure not to catch the bug, and I've got to make sure not to do that, or not move the stuff out there. But then you said, none of it matters. It's not at all. What do you mean? So then the Buddha went and gave some clarifications, right? So the third turning was called the turning of the fine distinctions. He's like, oh, I didn't mean nothing had a nature. Poor Bodhisattva who's very confused. I better tell him something so they don't freak out. Right? I mean, some things have a nature, but some things don't. For you. Yeah? Yeah? And I'm saying it sarcastically, but I'm trying to imagine the period of the Buddha where people were really trying to understand, and people's intellects, and it's not really IQ, it's not even EQ, it's like a spiritual Q. what would you, SI? Spiritual intelligence, you know? It's that kind of thing. You can't tell a child everything about the highest workings of mathematics, yeah? Or biologically what's going to happen to them when they're 75. Even if they hear the words, they won't get the concept, yeah? So I have to imagine that the Buddha was doing something like that to bring us up, and that's the whole idea, right? So we're sort of done with the mind-only school where he tried to explain, and he said, what three things didn't have a nature? What did he mean? Do you remember? He said, by having no nature in the second turning, I meant these three things specifically don't have a nature. Do you remember what those three things were?
There's no growing.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
The ultimate and...
Nice. Stretch. The first thing that had no nature at all was kuntaks, mental constructs, right? That's okay. Yeah. But then the second one, because in the middle, in mind-only school, he says, you can organize everything in your world in these three things. Kuntaks, which are constructions of your mind, stuff made up in your mind in relation to changing stuff, shenwangs, all this other stuff. There's all this stuff out there, yeah, that in this school says that really exists. What I meant that nothing exists is that doesn't exist without causes and conditions. That's what I meant. Yeah, you could never have a chair without a chair factory. That's what I meant by nothing exists. There would be no chair without a chair factory. That's one way I meant nothing exists. The other way I meant nothing exists is all these constructs you have around chair, the mental idea of chair before you touch that object that we call chair. That stuff also doesn't. It's just made up in your mind. It's not a chair. Don't confuse that with chair. That's a really useful idea to get us up. And then the other thing that doesn't exist is this thing called totality in the mind-only school, or our idea of emptiness, which is just the fact. What was it? Do you remember? Emptiness, totality in mind-only.
The lack of any nature being ultimate.
That the kuntak, the mental construct, doesn't necessarily apply to that by definition.
Right.
Yeah? That whatever, and the example we gave was Tashi the boy. A baby popped up, he popped up, but Tashi about that didn't exist by definition. Removing those non-existing things about that object, that's its totality, that's all emptiness is. It's empty of not being all the shit I made up about them. Yeah? Does that make sense? Am I talking really weird? No, we got everything. You fixed it. You're up to mind only. Good. That's awesome. The fact that we can have this conversation, if I remove the Tibetan monastic population, I dare say you're maybe one in less than 1,000 people on the planet who have made time to think about this. The fact that you can answer me is a miracle. The fact that I can explain it is a miracle. And actually attach it to your reality is even more miraculous. And if you've tried to toy with these ideas, it's beyond a miracle. Yeah. It's more than science. I know that's controversial. It's way more than science. It adds the perceiver into the equation of what is reality. Yeah? Anyway, so we finished with all that blah blah. Yeah, we got really subtle. We bridged from a really basic idea of where the nature of existence. Because if I find out where my sickness come from, I can stop it. That's the premise, right? If I find out really where all these things come from, is it there? Is it here? Is it the projection? Is it what has substance there? Is the substance here? If you find it, then you're actually working with true causes, the real causes, rather than some imaginary cause. And the fact that where our lives are up and down, and you at some point don't have control of your life in the way you think you do, that means you don't know how to control your life. You don't know how to really cause, in a scientific point of way, always giving you the same result. We don't know how to do that about our lives. If we did, nothing we didn't want would happen to us. Does that make sense? It better be an easy question.
Did you ever talk about how mind-only school views karma? Did you?
We had a beautiful diagram yesterday, last Thursday.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll touch on it a little bit here. Yeah, I'll touch a little bit about it today. Karma, laws of karma, are exactly the same in that school. Yeah. They even created a new pocket in your mind called the Alala Vijnana to hold all your karmas. Remember? cause and effect, exactly the same. The same karma producing the object, your eye consciousness, and the mind perceiving the object. Yeah? So it's not, and they say it's the same stuff, but they don't mean it's the same material stuff for those three. It just means it comes from the same karmic seed. Yeah? So we touched on it a little bit. We touched on it more in ACI 5. In fact, that's the explanation we pulled from. Mm-hmm.
Does this mean then if you figure this out that you can cause or create the exact life you want?
Create or cause or create? I didn't hear you properly.
The life that you
The life that you want.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which is effectively creating nirvana or reaching enlightenment.
Yep. That's the point. That's the whole point. There's no other point. Yeah. Is it in the way that I understood it when I first heard it? No. Yeah. Do I have enough evidence after 20 years of trying it? For me, yeah. For you, I don't know. There's a... It's a completely different view of what it is to be here. And we can't step into that view. We're so steeped into another view. The view we call normal. The view we call... And this view that we hold as humans, Western humans at this period of time, there's a bunch of it that will be refuted and thought of as primitive in 50 years, 100 years. Like if you rewind 200 years in the Western view, you'd think people were pretty stupid. We're pretty stupid. Running forward, yeah. 50, maybe, and we could be, what's that movie called where everyone turns stupid in America? And there's only one person, what's it called?
Idiocracy.
Unless we're in idiocracy. And this is it. This is the best we can do. Sorry.
Wait, there's a movie about
Yeah, it's very relevant right now.
Yeah, it's very relevant at the moment. So I think the premise is that basically it's far into the future and humans are way more stupid than they ever were. Like really, really stupid. And there's one person that got frozen or something.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
And they got projected into the future and they got woken up. But he wasn't just a guy. But now he is the most intelligent person on the planet. But he's just like some dude. So everyone, he doesn't understand why people are so stupid. Anyway, it sounds very relevant to today. So usually we left off talking about the 4 ancient schools of India, yeah? And I'm not teaching this to you to bore you, and I thought it was really hard. It's not hard, okay? And I'll try and make it as simple as possible. This is just one explanation. We left off talking about which school thinks how things exist. Is that right? That's what we talked about, how things really exist, whether there's external stuff and what's it look like, yeah? And everyone said yes, except the mind-only school said no, yes, no. And then the independence, the school we're in today, half of them lean towards one and lean towards other, about real external stuff.
Where does the Kagi school fall? Different.
No, Kagyupas are that middle way. Yeah. So I don't know specifically which
What
thinkers they
viewpoint,
think, which viewpoint they sit in there. I would dare say it's that one. Yeah.
Middle.
I'm guessing. So usually I get you to review last week's class together as a group, but today you're still doing it. Why?
No, I thought you were going to say, but we're not.
Yeah, but no, this is important. Yeah, get to discuss. All I care about is you put your name here and that you talk to each other and see if you can put into words the ideas we just covered. Yeah, specifically the ones we covered last week. It's for a couple of reasons. It will burn into your mind better. If you weren't here, it'll catch you up so today's class doesn't seem out of context. It builds relationship between you, and I get such a bliss watching you squirm trying to do the explanations of what I had to do the previous week. That makes me feel good. That's not really the reason. It's really beautiful to see a group of people trying to connect into their own emphasis, as you can see, this subject is a perfect excuse for those minds that are trying to get to all the slightly wrong interpretations of what is an ultimate reality, what really is. Because if you figure that out, you can figure out your world, right? But we all have some wrong ideas about what they are, what that is, what the way things exist. And then these philosophers who have thousands of years to figure it out, they have some slight wrong ideas, which are probably more dangerous than strong wrong ideas, right? To have a misconception and act on that misconception will always give you a mishap, a misresult, yeah? But if it's close enough, if it's 80% okay, then your life will be 80% okay, and something's breaking. Do you see why it's vitally important to understand truly the way nature exists? Because if you truly apply the true cause, the ultimate cause, you must get an ultimate result and not a broken result. That's the simplest I can put this idea. So it's really good to identify how in human history, with our intellect, we've gone into nooks and crannies of human logic that some beings are comfortable with, like existing externally in partless particles that don't have sides. Logically makes no sense, right? But for a group of people, for hundreds of years, that's what they tried to reach nirvana with, reach freedom with. Now, will they get somewhere? Maybe, right? Because the practice is a big practice. But what if that little bit didn't get them there? Ba-bow. Right? So today I'm going to confuse you a little bit more. Because if we understand a slight wrong or misinterpretation and a more subtle wrong interpretation, and even more subtle wrong interpretation, and even more subtle, then we might be able to remove all the subtleties and drop into the real understanding that you must come to yourself. You don't have to believe it. You have to use your logic, the study, the thinking, and then apply it. So this course has moved us up to that most subtle idea of what things truly exist at, and then we'll remove that next class, that final barrier, and go back to what we've been studying for 5-6 years here, which is the real explanation of where things really come from and how they exist truly, ultimately. Yeah? And that view, that understanding of emptiness, is the one that tantric practice is based on. That's an important statement. Yeah? The prasangika view of emptiness is the one that tantric practice is based on. Without it, you can't transform things from, if they had some kind of nature, even a subtle part of nature, you can't change them. If there is a tiny particle out there with penness existing out there, separate from something inside you, forcing it to be pen, that ain't changing. Your world and that part of your world ain't changing to an enlightened world. That will stay pen. In that school, do you see what I'm saying? In that one broken idea that there is something out there substantial, some particle of pen, even if it's partless particle, yeah, then that thing must be a pain in the ass in your Buddha paradise. If you can get enlightened, they'll be like, shit, why is that pen there? Right? Like, I thought I changed, everybody's an angel, everything's beautiful. There's that pen.
Doesn't it sort of kind of throw the whole thing out the window?
Of course.
It is a self-existent object.
That's it. But
Emptiness.
that's it. But that's the view of the highest school. That's the highest understanding. And we're studying it from different understandings. So you've got it because we've drilled it in here for all this time. That's not an easy thing to come to. That's certainly not anything that I would come to naturally. Yeah? As a baby born, eating food and living in this existence, I am sure things exist out there. In that way, we just denied. Yeah. So bear with us this class. This class, we're going to spend a little bit of time in the independent school. Yeah. So these are degrees of subtlety. You can look at them. Subtlety in understanding ultimate reality. Are we good there? Yeah. Say nod. No. Yes. So in that school, in the independent school, they have what's called 3 degrees of selflessness, and selflessness is code 4.
Emptiness.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Let me see. I wanted to give you the words that Geshe Michael used for degrees. He used 3 degrees, but really it's subtle and gross selflessness. And when you put 2 things together, it implies a 3rd thing. So for example, if I remember Tibetan correctly, if you say hot and cold, the word hot cold in Tibetan, that means temperature. Yeah, you're good, excellent. So if you put that together, that means temperature. If you put, he'd been studying, if you put subtle, gross, yeah, that's in between these 2 extremes. It's like, to what degree is it this way, or to what degree is it that way? So that's why he chose the translation 3 degrees of selflessness. What do I tell you about that first? This idea is unique to the independent school. You're good so far? There's 4 schools of ancient India. What are they?
Functionalists.
No, there's 4 schools of ancient India. What are they? Abhidharma, Sutrists, Mind Only, and Middle Way. Middle Way has 2, a subset, a lower middle way, and the ultimate. Good, which is independent.
That was mind only.
He said mind only has 2.
No, I said independent has 2.
You said middle way.
Middle way has 2.
Middle way has 2. Did I? I said something. Is it up there? Does that help you? Svatantrika and Prasangika. Good. So now in this idea of 3 levels of emptiness, or 3 degrees of selflessness, already the high school will say you can't have 3 degrees of something that it's either emptiness or it isn't. Okay, number 1. So they're already going to say something's wrong there. But we're not there. We're not at the high school. We're at this school that developed called the independent school. They have 3 degrees of emptiness or selflessness, and they don't have one that would be an obvious degree of selflessness. And I want to talk about that one first. The one that didn't even make the list, yeah? The gross lack of a self-nature, yeah? So an obvious lack, gross not meaning yucky, meaning obvious, yeah? A gross lack of a self-nature. When we say self-nature, we mean, in relation to the pen,
So this
Coming from
didn't
Existing by definition.
yeah, existing out there by definition. Yeah, it's got some penness by itself, right?
This isn't one of the.
This isn't one of the 3. I want to talk about the 3 degrees of selflessness that the independent school is, but when you see the list, you'll see why I want to talk about this first. Yeah? You good with that?
Yeah.
Sure?
So wait, so independent is part of
Middle way.
Madhyamika.
Yeah. You have Madhyamika Svatantrika and Madhyamika Prasangika. The independent school, which is the one we're in tonight, we're almost there, right? We've bridged from mind-only thinking to middle way thinking. Yeah, we're in the middle way, everybody celebrate. But we're in the second, in the first level of middle way, the independent school. Is that cool? Do you remember why they were called independent? I told you last week.
The way they argue logic.
The way they what?
The way they argue logic.
They believe there's some independent process in the logic that will force someone to see emptiness. Good, cool, thank you. That's not on your homeworks or anything like that,
There's
but
some
I'm glad you're
self-existent
listening.
logic that brings you to wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be a nice Prasangika way of saying that.
What?
Some self-existent logic that brings you to wisdom. Yeah, smartass. Yeah. So, what would you? I probably put it up there. There's. Let's consider the self as not just the person, but an identity like a pen, yeah, or you, or Hector, yeah, a thing, a self, yeah. And for that to have a self-nature, we've done the discussion about the pen, that would have to have some stuff forcing everybody to calling it pen. And all the other schools think that, right? The mind-only school thinks that Shenwangs have some real nature out there. There is a pen, or there is a blob of flesh called the boy, and that really exists, by definition, out there as a boy. Why does it exist that way? Because it's got causes and conditions. It came out of a sperm and egg, and that's what boys are made of. Right? You're there? Yeah.
I thought that, but then last class I thought that was...
No, we went to a real subtle side of the Mainoni school where they spent time in the kuntaks, in the mental construct about boy, but even your thinking that the construct boy applies to that blob of flesh, that's not true. That's what they say emptiness is. Ignorance is thinking that your mental constructs about that Shenwang that you can never really touch because you're so lost in your mind.
Yeah, I got that, but then, I mean, I don't want to...
derail the class, thanks.
You know what, let me go ahead and derail it. No, I just remember when we were going over the chart, like during this whole course,
Yeah.
that's what I understood, that they actually believed it was
Yeah.
And then last class, I got completely thrown off.
Yeah, yeah.
On the chart, I understood that they
Things
believed that
don't exist
that
out there.
thing was- Yeah, exactly. That they
In the way the first two schools think of it. That's all. Yeah. They don't believe things exist out there, like partless particles and...
But they do believe.
yes, things exist out there.
Okay.
That's why I had no
Okay.
dash yes in brackets. Yeah, you're welcome. So here, this is the idea of an Atman, or the idea of a soul. We have this gross understanding that there must be the soul of Hector, independent to my mind and body, right? It's they don't even discuss this in Buddhism. Yeah, this was to be discussed with other non-Buddhist schools and debated. So I wanted to throw it out there because this is the obvious or the gross lack of a self-nature to this thing called Hector. The fact that it doesn't have some, the prayer, what is it? God keep our soul to keep, or what's that thing? Tonight as I go to sleep,
My soul to keep.
my soul to keep. Yeah, so pray what?
If I die before I wake, I pray my
Lord, my soul to keep, right? So to take something keep, I don't know. That idea that there is some essence of you that is separate and unchanging. Yeah, it's not a changing thing, and it was a belief at the time in non-Buddhist schools and what Buddhist schools debated at. That belief that this thing, a soul I carry, or this really substantial, what did I put up there? Self-contained, unchanging soul that carries the 5 heaps around, right? And do you remember the 5 heaps in the Abhidharma school, right? That idea, that didn't even make the list as the 3 degrees of selflessness. But let me ask you, what is the selflessness or the emptiness of that kind of person that's got a unchanging soul that stays pristine and God will keep it when you die?
What? Just they wouldn't exist.
Yeah, the fact that kind of Hector that has that thing, that doesn't exist. That's all. That's so obvious. That's a gross level. Are you there so far? That we're now going to get to more and more subtle degrees of that discussion. Happy? We'll give you the first. So, here is a person, they think, I am that thing, I have a soul, right? That's not true. The first degree of selflessness in the independent school is the subtle lack of a self of a person. What do you think that means? Subtle lack of the self as a person.
Like you're a human.
Mm-hmm. Say that again.
I was gonna say what you were gonna say.
I was going to say that too.
Well, say it.
One self of how they identify with themselves as their labeling of the I.
Say it. Like, this is a forum for you to push your boundaries, so go.
I don't know how else to say it. How are you going to say it?
What you said about the soul.
No, that was the gross. This is the subtle lack of a
No,
If the-
sorry, not the soul. I meant the identity.
You tell me. I'm going to give you the answer in the next thing, but now I'm going to give you the list. Yeah.
Is it like the Tashi thing?
Nice. Okay. That's a good way of thinking about it.
We do have a perception that ourselves exist as one thing throughout time,
Yeah.
and we are confined into this body, and we are the same thing over. And then we were 5, and then we were 70, and then we die.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
But that's not true. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Does that sound subtle or gross? Is that less sophisticated, more sophisticated than the first one? Do you think?
I think it's what that is saying, the unchanging.
No, the unchanging soul is the gross lack of a self of a person.
Is it just
Is
lack of
it
a
just your
personality?
perception of
Like,
yourself?
Does it have to do with the constructs that we call ourselves?
We'll get to it. Let's go next one. Gross lack of a self to objects. Now I'm going to tell you a little.
Oh,
What? Go on.
I was gonna say that seems easier.
This seems easier, but I've got to tell you code.
Oh.
Okay. Code word when discussing objects in terms of objects and persons. Yeah. So when you say objects, you think potatoes, right? I know it's an apple. Or chairs or whatever, right? Persons, you know what persons are. Is that, yeah, it means you, the person, yeah? Objects, when being discussed in relation to persons, what do you think it means?
Other people.
Parts of a person, like your legs, your arms, the parts of your mind, your body.
Oh,
Yeah?
like my leg isn't me.
Yeah, exactly. So it in this context, because we're discussing persons, objects here or things
For the part.
are the parts of a person. Okay, all the parts that make you up. You'll find that in the Heart Sutra too. So then they're saying that this is more subtle.
The physical parts, or are you referring to the 5 heaps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's heaps. Yeah,
You would say the
but I can't remember exactly.
Why are you saying objects?
Can you just say
So
what
you're
the
saying
five
the
heaps are?
objects are the heap?
Yeah, in summary, the 5 objects are your body and your mind. Yeah, but your mind is divided into feeling, discrimination, consciousness. Yeah,
Everything else.
and everything else.
That's how they describe Atman. Like Hindu stuff is the self that is the lack of the heaps. I can talk.
Wait, so this,
The
The gross
Atman.
lack of self to objects is essentially how
How?
Atman is described. Like this.
Yeah. So now this is
Yeah.
describing the gross lack of a self to the parts of a person,
meaning the
Yeah.
heaps.
meaning the heaps. We can say the heaps. Yeah. What do you think the third one is in the independent school? Yeah, I'll give you all the definitions in a minute. I'm supposed to get you here.
Subtle lack of
Yeah,
self.
great. So now you understand why I gave you the first one, right? The one that wasn't included. Before we go delving into what each one of these means, I want you to understand that the 3 degrees of selflessness in the independent school begins with the subtle lack of self to persons. Is that right? Yeah. Then it goes to the gross lack of a self to parts of a person or things. Yeah. And then it goes to the subtle lack, a more refined emptiness, meaning something you can't find. Yeah? Now I'm going to ask you this question. Even though we didn't get a definition yet for what these 3 mean, what do you think would be the difference between Hector's subtle self-nature and Hector's gross self-nature?
Your gross self-nature being your body. No, like
What do you think?
when you perceive through the 5 heaps.
Do you think this is an important question? Right? Since they divided it into 3, do you think this is an important question to go, well, what would the difference be between, let's say, the parts of Hector, right? The gross, subtle, the gross lack of a self to my parts, or the subtle lack of a self to my parts? That's an important question, don't you think?
Yes.
Wait, but
If
it's
you're right
when you're talking about
Still on a building. Right? But that habit of understanding things through logic, it becomes instinctual. And we collectively will get an instinctual, a habitual response to our reality based on our depth of understanding of the way things truly are. That's the game here. So that's why it's important to do that. Hold on, you're asking me in Tibetan Buddhism, what's an example of the thing that could never exist? Steve, show them. It's on your arm. Yeah. That's the gakcha. That is a horns on a rabbit, right? And you would ask, how long are the horns on a rabbit? Is it 6 inches or 12 inches? Right? That's what we're asking here, according to the Prasangika. But let's leave that for a second and go into the way the independent school. Are you with me so far? Did you get a little self-realization that you should be asking some questions, some fundamental questions about the nature of existence? But do you feel really good about yourself?
So the independent school doesn't believe.
No, they believe there's 3 degrees of emptiness. Now, obviously, they think the subtle lack of objects, of self to objects, or the parts of a person, is the real emptiness. Yeah, they go. That's the deepest. That's the truth. You can't have degrees of an ultimate. Yeah.
Right, because the question is saying what's the difference between Hector's subtle self-nature and his gross self-nature, but
It was a trick question.
Right, because
Yeah.
Prasangika says nothing has a self-nature.
Yeah. So, I want to go back to the boogeyman idea. So we are discussing a thing that doesn't exist, a boogeyman, yeah? Or we've been calling it a pink elephant, yeah? A self-existent pen,
The sky flower.
yeah? The sky flower, the rabbit's horns. This thing that could never exist, realizing that doesn't exist, that means you've understood the emptiness of something. Is that cool? That's what we're getting to. So what's the big deal? I think that's where your question was going, Rachel. What's the big deal about realizing there is or there isn't a boogeyman if it's not there anyway, right? Well, the problem is this boogeyman, the one in your mind that believes things exist out there and therefore cause you to take actions, plant karmas, imprints in your mind towards others, and your mind is recording this action based on the boogeyman informing you that you got hurt because she said something bitchy to me. So now my mind goes into overdrive believing that boogeyman, so I hate her. I think bad things about her. I want to do naughty things for her. I want to trip her up. I want to get a fight or whatever it is, right? I might act on it, might not. All those are actions of my mind. I believe the boogeyman. Based on the belief that that boogeyman exists, I've gone into a whole rumination of what my existence is, and it's in relation to that stuff out there that is causing all these problems for me. And in that, who am I harming? Who am I creating the causes for future sameness to?
Yourself.
Me.
Yourself.
Only me. Yeah? Now, I might tell my boss, look, Emily, she's not really good at reports. You know, like, I know she does a lot of reports, but I've seen a few mistakes. You know, like I might choose whatever words in my mind and intention to trip her. And sometimes they would work and sometimes they wouldn't work. Right? And I would keep trying until it worked. But when she got fired, did she get fired because of what I did? Ultimately, really? You can't say it did, right? Because otherwise she would have been fired the first time. Right? But we don't buy that. We still think the things are out there. That's all we've got. We're so bought into the boogeyman story that this boogeyman kills us. This boogeyman really causes our actions to be so mistaken, but not in such an obvious way, slightly wrong, to keep us locked in this bullshit existence that will always end badly for time without end, until we realize that boogeyman don't exist. Now, once you realize that, you're going to realize that first, intellectually, difficult in this class. Secondly, more difficult in your everyday lives. Yeah? And the way you're going to do that is by meditating on it over and over and over, habituating your mind. And then, even more difficult, make it into a spontaneous habit. Your automatic reaction when someone says something and you get hurt, you must come up with the answer. I've done this in my mind over and over. It can't be from her. It must have come from. That's got to be instinctual. Your instinct at the moment is not that, right? Your instinct at the moment, she did this to me. Your instinct must be, it appears that way, therefore, I know where it really comes from. My habit is so good now, I have to plant the opposite. I can't have that happening in my world. Yeah, and then all the practices, all the different practices tell you how to do that nicely. Won't go into that today. So this boogeyman, the lack of self, the things that don't exist that we're discussing to what degree, this one really will kill you. All the other ones, all the boogeymans and the Santa Clauses, and they're not really going to do too much for you. So let me.
That's why you were saying in the beginning the subtle is really dangerous.
You're going to get degrees of removing your boogeyman, but you're going to really have some deeply invisible boogeyman still appearing there until you get to the ultimate boogeyman. You're not going to get rid of the habit and the instinct. That's what I'm saying. Can I tell you about 3 tracks? I'm going to talk many things. 3 degrees of selflessness we're going to discuss. That's our main subject. Are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
I want to mix in 3 tracks. Yeah? For those of you that studied with us before, it's not really up here, but I want to push your minds to think about the 5 paths. Sorry. Do you remember the 5 paths?
Yeah.
These are 5 stages of spiritual development that any being must go through to reach a state of enlightenment. Yeah? They might or might not be Buddhists, okay? But they must go through a path of accumulation, gathering enough goodness to wake the F up. Yeah? Preparation, they need to prepare, intellectually understand the stuff we're talking right now. Seeing. So you're preparing to see the lack of a boogeyman. Yeah? Then once you've seen it, you must habituate. You make it a habit so much so that it becomes instinctual because you've seen it. Yeah? And the last is not really a path, it's a result, it's a no more learning, right? That's it, you're done, you're free. So we're saying there are these things called 3 tracks. So each of these tracks are different levels of understanding of emptiness that relate to the 3 degrees somewhat. So I want to put it all together just for those of you who have a mind like Emmett to see if you can. I'm going to ask you which person on each track, how would they experience each of those paths? And that's just for shits and giggles. Do you have that saying in America?
Yeah.
Shits and giggles. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah. What do you guess are the tracks that we're talking about?
3 tracks to get out of.
Yeah, so 3 there's 3 paths, right, to get out of samsara to nirvana or Buddhahood. Right. You're going to get on 3 vehicles. Yeah, there might be. You're going to get on 3 vehicles to go there. Yeah. We're going to talk about them at the end of class, but I'll give you an advance. The vehicles you might get into to go on those tracks, to go through the 5 paths to reach your ultimate goal. That those of you who have been studying might have fun, might be not.
Is this the scopes?
Good, cool. Scopes 2. We're going to do 3 scopes, 3 vehicles, 5 paths, just to get you confused, okay? And whatever stretch you got, whatever you get, you succeed. What do you think the first track is? Actually, give me a vehicle. A yana. Hinayana. Right? What's it mean? Lower vehicle. Yana, as in a vehicle, as in the load you can take on, right? That's what it's a cart. You can load it with stuff. Yeah, it relates to how much load you can take on this path. Okay, so the lowest load you can take is a Hinayana, we call it. Okay, the lowest load you can travel on these paths. I'll just go straight into it. So the first column refers to the track, the second column to the vehicle, the third column is the independence idea of degrees of emptiness, and the fourth column is a description of what that means. Is that cool? And I'm going to do that for the 3 degrees of emptiness. You with me?
No, so this is through the independence school.
This is the independence belief that to understand emptiness, you got to go through these 3 degrees of understanding of no self nature, right? A subtle one to persons, a gross one to the parts or objects, and a subtle one to the objects.
But the interpretation that you're providing, is that prasangika?
That's middle way, independent. MWI, top
So
right.
saying Hinayana doesn't yet have real bodhicitta or perceived real.
That's what they say is the first level, first degree of emptiness. Is those on the Hinayana path. Yeah, there are practitioners out there on a lower vehicle. So the independent schools are saying, this is my understanding of what this emptiness thing is and how to get out of samsara. There are those called the listeners or the hearers, yeah, who travel on the vehicle that you can't load too much on, right? And that's really the first, those come, when they realize emptiness, they come to a realization of the subtle lack of a self nature, which up here says to persons, which says
Nature of a person.
that there isn't a thing separate to your mind or body, like a Wizard of Oz, like a driver of the vehicle. There isn't a Hannibal that is the driver of the vehicle separate to the mind and the body of. Well, they come to this aha moment. Shit, there ain't no Hannibal like that. The other way is to say that is, you can move your arm, right? Move your arm, Hannibal. Yeah, everyone, move your arm. Move your other arm. Everyone has 2 arms? Good, no armless people here? No one's armless? It was a joke. You got control, right? This Wizard of Oz, you choosing to move your arm, right? Wave at me. You got control, right? You little Wizard of Oz moving the levers of this body of yours, right? Now, think Coca-Cola. Who's doing that? That little Wizard of Oz behind you is going, oh, I'm going to pop up a picture of Coca-Cola. Don't think of penis. That was my joke. That wasn't in the sutras. Okay.
Not until
So this first track, the listener track, the Hinayanas, when they reach this subtle understanding, this subtle lack of a self nature to person, to me, they come to realize there ain't no Hannibal driver of this thing called my mind and body. There ain't no Wizard of Oz moving the levers making me do that. Right? And hopefully they'll do that before they are forced to have that realization on their deathbed when they want to move that hand and they can't. Yeah? Like over our lives we're like, oh, I got sick. And you get a sense of, shit, things are not what I think. I'm not really the driver of my destiny. I don't really drive this body and mind. But we don't believe it. We listen to the boogeyman and we go, I am. This is me, right? So this, the most gross of all 3 understandings of emptiness for the independent school, they come to a realization there ain't no such person that really controls this thing. And hopefully they get that realization before you're dying or before you get the cancer that you can't change. When you start realizing, I have no control. Something else is controlling this thing and it ain't me, the person. Hector, are you with me?
What does the NB stand for?
Note well. It means notte bene, right? In Italian? It means to note well, to make a good note about this, to pay attention. That there is no Wizard of Oz or driver of the car. There's no separate form of you. What else did I write there?
No self, or the self that does exist is the one listening to your
Yes. So,
thoughts.
so this school believes there is a self, the one that is hearing you or watching you think. But I don't want to go into that. I want to get to the lack of a self. Yeah? Are you with me so far? Say yes.
Where it says no self-nature of a person where the person is a self-standing. So they're saying the body is just a blob of flesh that you can do that.
No, it's like, I'm looking at you. You think you are this thing called Alana.
Right.
Right? You think that I can control Alana. Right? I'm going to walk her out there. I'm going to go to the toilet. I'm going to make her poop. I'm going to come back. I'm going to eat food. I'm going to, yeah?
Yeah.
We think we are the driver of this thing. Like the Wizard of Oz is moving like a puppet, this body and my thoughts, right? I can study and I will think about these things.
Okay.
There ain't no such thing. When you come to that realization, you've reached the path of seeing, yeah? When you have a meditation event where you go, oh my God, there ain't no Hannibal like that, separate from this mind. There's no Hannibal that controls this thing. Something else is at the control of this thing. Oh my God. Then you've had a perception of the emptiness of a Hinayana track.
And that gets them to nirvana?
Good question. Oh my God, you're thinking. I don't want to go there, but that's such a good question, right? That's such a good. That takes them to nirvana.
I
So
just feel like that's so...
yes, they would say it does. So what? Let's go the five. Are you with me at this one explanation?
I thought you
Say
made a
no,
mistake when
that
you
doesn't
said
get you
that's the
turned
path
on.
of seeing.
No, I didn't. No. Now I want to apply the 5 paths. If that is emptiness, that is the path of seeing for this track on this vehicle, right? So what's a listener? Do you know what a listener is?
Someone who can hear the higher teachings but not absorb them.
Put them into practice.
Great. So a listener, those in the listen, I can't remember the Sanskrit word for it. Those who are called the listeners are those that can listen to higher teachings, Mahayana teachings, even tantric teachings, which are Mahayana, by the way, and just not be able to put them into practice. They might be able to regurgitate them, but let's say they get a mantra from Tantra or a secret practice from Tantra, and they go, oh, okay, I got it. And then they go home and they can only practice sutra with their understanding. Yeah? They might be able to regurgitate it, but they just don't have the capacity yet to apply it to a higher teaching. So they're called the listeners. They can hear all they want. It's just not possible for them to put into practice. So that's why they're called listeners, just as an aside. Hinayana path implies going where?
Nirvana.
Reaching nirvana, which is, what's the goal of nirvana?
Permanent cessation of all mental...
Yeah, so it's like you're free out of the cycle of samsara, right?
Right.
So what would be the path of seeing here? Out of the 5 paths, what would be the pinnacle moment?
The perception of no self.
The perception of the perception of no self for the person. Subtle lack of a self of a person. Meaning, there's no Wizard of Oz driving my body.
Is that direct or biologic?
Direct. Yeah? So they're like, oh, I just had that. So they'd have this whole experience. What would be the path of preparation for them? They would be studying, well, what is it? Is there an Atman? Is there a self-entity? Is there something in there driving this thing? And they'd be reading the scriptures, interpreting that. You keep it with me until I go through and keep...
Question about it's just so that path of seeing it's a thought. It's a aha.
It's an experience in meditation. Yeah? What would be the path of preparation?
Isn't that what we just did?
That's what you just said.
Oh, I did. What's the path of habituation in this track?
I don't know.
Trying to maintain the perception of your lack of self-nature as
Yeah.
reality.
My God, I am not separate to this body of mine. I just had that whole experience. Aha. Wow, I'm going to go around and practice that. Now, will they reach some kind of realization? Will they reach some kind of level?
Yeah, I got it.
Will they get to bodhicitta?
Will they get to bodhicitta?
No.
Yeah, eventually, yes.
Eventually, yes. Who would say that?
Me. We
We would.
Prasangika would say that,
Why
right?
Hinayana?
Huh? Avoiding you. That's such a good question, Paul. But that would make them Hinayana. No, but that would make them Mahayana.
Like graduating.
The independence, since we're in the independent school, they have an issue with that. The Madhyamika, Prasangika don't have an issue with that. It's like eventually they're gonna have to realize they're in some blissed out state, nirvana, reach some kind of nirvana where they don't have mental afflictions. They're going to have to realize that everyone else is sort of suffering, and they're going to be pushing themselves up.
They'll be forced to have that realization.
Exactly.
But how can you perceive pain and suffering if you don't have mental afflictions?
Good question. Let's leave it. Do you get this concept? Because we're going to apply this now to the gross lack of a self to objects or things, which mean your body, yeah, your parts, yeah. And then we're going to get to the real emptiness in this school, which is this subtle lack of a self to objects or your parts, yeah. You're really there. Double your efforts, because it's pretty amazing you're having these thoughts. What do you think the next track might be? Those of you who heard the word listeners and
Self-made Buddhas.
Self-made Buddhas. Da! What self-made Buddhas mean?
Oh, that's so interesting.
Someone who can. Somebody who can.
Are the self-made Buddhas Buddhas?
No.
They're neither Buddhas nor are they self-made. That's why they're called self-made Buddhas. Okay.
They haven't turned the wheel.
The idea is. Go on.
Isn't it that they don't have a teacher in the life that they...
Yeah, every scripture says self-made means they don't have a teacher, a lineage in this life. Implication, they must have had. Can you become a piano extraordinaire without a teacher?
Yes.
Can you really?
Yes.
In this life?
Yeah, I guess
Yes. You could, right? You could.
Because you have the
But then where did that come from? Yeah, in this thing, in my brain. Yeah, but that's not who we're discussing it. Don't be mean.
Why am I being mean?
You know exactly what's going on. You and I are going to have a discussion about it.
Am I in trouble?
Yeah. Do you like it?
Yeah.
I know, it's good. Yeah. That was me trying to be serious. So self-made here means they've reached some realization of their own accord without a teacher, right? Every scripture here says that means they must have had some teachings before. Even the Buddha in the Diamond Cutter Sutra refers to all his previous teachers. Yeah, all his previous Buddhas. I can't read it because it's very tiny here. So self-made
Reached a lower nirvana
Without a teacher in this life.
in this life. Okay, cool. Second track. So they're still Hinayana vehicle. Yeah. They don't really. But Hinayana meaning the level of understanding of emptiness. Yeah. It doesn't mean someone from Thailand. It means their level of understanding of emptiness and lack of bodhicitta, like we would define it in Prasangika or middle way. Okay. Because this is all presented by middle way. I know there's many moving parts. Would they argue, if you were on that track, living that existence, you've come into this life with some extraordinary sense of being, you've gotten some understanding of the nature of reality, yeah? You have some understanding of that ultimate nature and you apply it, and you come to the realization that, someone read out the fourth thing?
No self-nature.
No, yeah, so they come to see that there is no self-nature to
Things.
meaning
Where the object and perception have any separate substance, i.e. don't come from separate karmic seeds.
that's what we discussed last week, right? Remember? Sound familiar? That you come to the realization, to the aha moment, just like the previous guys did, but this is way more subtle. You're looking at your kuntak, and you're looking at the I consciousness, and you know that there's some kind of object out there, and you say, that cannot come from separate seeds. They must come from the same seed. That's the positive way of saying it. Dependent origination. They come from the same seeds. The emptiness way of saying is that they lack a nature of coming from
Their own side.
from separate seeds. They lack the nature of coming from separate seeds. One is a lack. The negative side of things, the emptiness, is denying something that was never there. So they're denying the fact that whole reality to my finger, the fact that the finger had its thing, its causes and conditions, the fact that my I consciousness caught that, and that my mind labeled it finger, all those are the result of the same seed. That's the way things really are. Understanding that there's no other way of being, that couldn't have been separate to this seed perceiving it, that is more subtle, right? Well, that's the gross understanding of a self, to parts, to things. Are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they are self-made Buddhas according to independent school. That's a even more subtle way of understanding selflessness or emptiness. Yeah.
Do they call themselves self-Buddhas, or does the middle way call them that?
I think the middle way calls them that, but I think the Buddha called them self-made Buddhas, and so every scripture has that word.
Is that because they're not truly able to perceive a lack of self, so the self is creating their perception of
All these are infinitely more advanced than us in this room, okay? The fact that they can reach that level of understanding of self in a real sense, in an internalized sense, is already way more advanced. So don't get tripped up by the lower school Hinayana, the self-made, except don't get tripped up with the idea that they don't know anything.
It's self-made because they haven't had a teacher in this life.
Yeah, that's all it means. That's all that means. Yeah, cool.
Did the Gautama go through this in his life?
That's such a good question. Oh my God! Right? Did the Buddha have a teacher in this life?
Like Gautama Buddha.
Who was it?
The tiger cubs.
In this life?
In the
That was
one
a previous
that
life.
he became enlightened.
Yeah, but didn't the people that he taught
The five ascetics, he rejected their teachings, and then he came. Yeah, but he rejected their teaching. Huh?
They became his first students.
Yeah.
Jake Wallen.
Right, but he had them teach
Right.
stuff.
That's such a good question. You can sort that out on your
But
own.
that's a previous. No.
He had a bunch of teachers that he
in
never
his
took
life.
as like his heart teacher though.
Right. So this is the Buddha of this eon. Yeah. I'm going to tell you one more time, and then the third time. That's it.
So make me regress to that.
I have to say it one more time. I feel really sick again. And I still haven't told you the big secret.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think the next one is?
Stream enter.
It's the Vajri. Oh wait, we haven't.
No, we haven't even gone there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this would be the Bodhisattva track, which means what? In the middle way explanation. So here is a person who's walking around.
Who's had a direct perception of bodhicitta. Who's had a realization of bodhicitta.
Yeah, so that's someone that has bodhicitta. Okay, cool.
Who wants to
Reach enlightenment for the sake of everyone, right? So this is the real deal according to this school we're studying. Okay, this is the real deal. When that person, which is on what track, what load can this vehicle take? Mahayana, a big load, right? What kind of big load? I'm doing this for the sake of every existing being. That's a big load to take on that track. Yeah, that's why the Mahayana, it's not that it's better or whatever, it's like I have the capacity to practice this thing and have in my mind, in my heart, the reality that every being I come across is in the same circumstance I am, and I am motivated deeply to remove them from the same suffering I am having. What I love about just that thought by itself, so this is an aside, is that imagine you can have a realization of the lack of self to whatever level you have it, and it delivers you to a kind of freedom from the pains and struggles and uncertainties of this life, and its rebirth and birth and death and all that stuff. Imagine that's possible, okay? You can reach that. But you're going to have to work. You have to build your muscle to do stuff internally, and internally mostly, right? But out there too. If you're going to go to the gym and do that work, why not just slightly broaden the scope and say, I'm going to do it for mum too? Yeah? And then, I mean, you're going to go to the gym. Yeah? You don't have to do anything else other than think you're also doing it for mum. So for me, it's beautiful logic to say, okay, if I'm going to go through this experiment until I get a realization, I may as well do it in the Mahayana track. Yeah? Because we all have mums. Subtle lack of a self to things. Things being?
Hearts.
Yeah. Notice the previous one was the actual definition of emptiness for the mind-only school, right? So that's it. They got stuck there. Now we're going to the place the middle way independent school gets stuck at, which is...
But mind only is in Mahayana.
I know. Good, Stephen. I love that. That was my big debate as well with Mr. Geshe Michael. And I haven't resolved it.
Wait, you haven't resolved it with Geshe?
No.
They're saying the highest meaning of emptiness
Yeah.
is mind only.
And mind only is a Mahayana. Yeah. But this is what the independent school developed as a thought that the levels of understanding is. It just happens to match the mind only one. I know, he picked it. I actually didn't think any of you would pick that. Stephen, you're amazing. That's awesome.
It's because I'm sick.
Because it took me a long time to even get there. I'm like, okay, did you all see what he saw or not? No? Good, don't worry about it.
Mind only
It's
highest
not-
meaning of emptiness.
Right.
Mind only is not Hinayana.
Yeah.
That's what he saw. He's right. It's pretty awesome. It means people are paying attention. I know it's words, but they all relate to those realizations. When you get to realize these boogeymen don't exist and each one is more and more subtle, right? You are free, or you begin to develop the imprints in your mind that will turn into realizations in meditation that gets you out of samsara.
So does that mean that the independent school is saying that mind only is Hinayana?
No, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah?
Okay.
Tell me what the definition of what they see as a lack of self or the gaccha is for the middle way independent school. Tengo un proyecto de arte en California, así que
No, vengo la próxima semana.
Yay. Someone read it because I can't. It's small.
No self-nature of things.
Yeah.
Every existing object is empty of any true essence.
Yeah. So they're saying everything now, right? So the middle way have just gone to the one you're very familiar with, right? Which is there is absolutely nothing that has a true essence at all. Yeah? And then you're going to get into this debate of what's true essence and do they mean it the way that Prasangika mean it? Because that makes sense to you, right? There's nothing like this that has a nature from its own side. We all believe that. We've been talking about that, right? They're just saying the same thing, right? They don't mean the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to we're going to have to talk about what does it mean to truly exist from its own side, through some unique nature of its own. We all agree that, right? This doesn't have a unique nature from its own side. But the middle way independent school means something slightly different to what we mean as a mind, as a prasangika. Any questions? Any frustrations?
Yeah, I have a question about this definition at the bottom. That's what we agree with as prosecution.
They say the same words we say. They mean different things.
Okay.
Yep. So how do things exist truly, according to the middle way independent school, do you think?
Having a nature.
Yeah, they use the same words we do, okay? But here is the trick, and here's the crux of it. For them, they think, first of all, an apple must appear as an apple, sort of like the mind-only school thing. From its own side, I think I put pen up there. And secondly, it must be perceived by an unaffected state of mind. What's an unaffected state of mind?
Valid perception.
Yeah, pramana, a sema, yeah? One that's not drugged out,
Under the influence of a strong emotion.
strong emotion, yeah, cool. No optical illusions, right? It's just a normal state of mind. You can have a valid perception. The valid perception doesn't have to be correct. It's just got to be valid. That's another rabbit hole, okay? A sema is a valid perception. A semin is the affected state of mind. What's a tsamin?
Fear goggles. You said with an affected state of mind?
What's tsamin? If sema is valid perception, what's tsamin?
Invalid.
Invalid. So have you ever been on the subway and both cars are moving and it looks like you're going backwards?
Oh God,
That's a tsamin. We don't have too many of those, okay? Or has anybody ever organized a birthday party for you and they're being secretive and you think they're hiding something from you and they're being evil? And you're like, damn, I know she's having an affair. Or something. And then they, right? So you have like an emotional misinterpretation of what really is going on, okay? Maybe that's not such a good example, but you get the idea. So here, the independent school say that for something to exist truly, it must appear for what it is. From out there, it's particles, remember? It's either leaning to the sutrist or leaning to the mind-only interpretation, right? Out there, the stuff must appear for what it really is, which in this case is an apple, and then I must have an unaffected state of mind connect to it. And that's really how things exist. When I realize that there's no other way than that things exist, then I've had the aha moment of there's nothing that could ever exist in any other way. It's so close to the prasangika in language, yeah? Except they've got these two parts to the way things appear. This is an apple out there, and it requires a clean state of mind that normally perceives apples for it to be an apple. You remove the apple existing, that's incorrect. You remove a valid state of mind, that's not an apple. You can't have that existing. Yeah? When you realize that in the mind-only school, in the middle way independent school, you've realized either the dependent origination of an apple, how apples exist truly. It needs that plus this. That's how it truly exists. You can't ever have an apple separate to this. So it's so close to Madhyamika, Prasangika. It needs a valid state of mind, except they've got a mistake. They think, oh shit, it's got to be apple out there. It's got its partless particles that have parts. Right? Yeah?
But they're not saying that it has some nature from its own side.
It can't have a nature from its own side separate to the one that a normal state of mind would see it correctly as.
And that's the subtle difference.
That's way more subtle
than the mind.
to the parts than the other one. Yeah?
But, so does it say that, like, right, because they're saying it's appearing from its own side as an apple, so that...
No, it's not. That's what you're hearing. They're saying it exists as an apple if the apple is there and a valid state of mind is connecting to the apple.
Right. So...
If you don't have a valid state of mind, it's not existing really.
Right, but what if I'm a dog?
It's wrong.
So the dog is just wrong.
Why is the dog's mind wrong?
Huh?
It's not
Like,
mind
do you
only.
follow? Do you follow my question?
No, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Maybe I said it wrong. You're right, Steve. That's mine only. A dog would say,
Right.
if this was an apple appearing to a dog,
Right.
yeah, and whatever apple is for the dog is validly perceived from that realm as meme or wow, yeah, then that's how this exists for it. It's not what I said
So it's
before.
one step further.
It's one step further than mine only.
So
Yeah.
it's just...
So it's that the object is imbued with pendness by the perceived.
It requires both A and B for it to be an existing object.
It's
Yeah.
slapped on.
It's like, yeah, this is an apple,
And
but it cannot be an apple without my projection.
so it's saying the appleness comes from here, but
It's actually saying 50-50. And that's how things really exist.
It's almost the same.
So do they?
It's so almost the same. So there's a problem
Because you
here.
can't have one without the other anyway.
Hmm?
I said because you can't have one without the other anyway. In there.
But they're still believing that there is something out there that you can call independently. Yeah? I don't know. Here is the gotcha for them. Can someone read it? I know it's long.
Here's a question.
But this is a famous...
If there could be a thing
Yes.
that could exist from its own side through its own unique identity, without being simply established as existing by virtue of its appearing to an unaffected state of mind.
then that if there could exist that thing from its own nature, yeah, without appearing to a state of mind, that would be a non-thing. That's yeah?
The gotcha.
Yeah.
That's why they say diluted. That's why they say deceptive reality is.
To a deceived state of
deceived
mind.
state of
Yeah,
mind.
cool. So in this school, if a tree falls in the forest
And
without someone to hear it,
then it never.
would a tree
It would make no sense.
Doesn't exist.
That would be the gotcha.
no tree like that in this school? Yeah.
Well, the earth part of it.
Huh?
The earth part of it. The earth.
The earth, you have to find out whether the earth has a mind. Whether there is a mind like your mind, like does it have thoughts, consciousness, and mental factors, etc.
So,
I'm gonna go 10 more minutes. Yeah.
So you said this was one step higher than mind only. So, or like, how does it differ from mind only? Like,
What was the mind only's definition of the thing that didn't exist? The aha moment they had. Oh, that's emptiness. It was the fact.
It would be removing the state of mind which projects the construct onto the thing that exists from its own side as a dependent thing.
Say that again.
Perceiving emptiness in the mind-only school would be perceiving the object after you've removed the kuntak, which is your projection onto the object.
No, it's believing that there could be an apple that came from a separate seed than the kuntak that forced you to see it as an apple.
That's mind
Do you mean
only.
That's mind only. Huh?
Do you mean what's a gotcha?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's...
you said what is
yeah, you
emptiness.
said what is the
So,
emptiness?
yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So what is the gotcha and?
It's on gotcha.
Coming from a separate seed to the state of mind which
Yeah.
perceives it.
But what is... But the gotcha is what emptiness is empty of. Yeah? The gotcha is the boogeyman, yeah, that doesn't exist. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I don't understand this. Is the external object and the perception, according to mind only school,
Yeah.
is the external object and the perception, are they coming from the same seed or separate seed?
Mind
we
only,
just
they
said
come
they're
from the same seed.
But we just said they're separate.
The gotcha.
No, that's the thing that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
In
That's the
mind
thing.
only.
The thinking that they could ever come, then an apple growing... Now, in the mind only school, do apples grow from trees?
Yes.
Really do, right?
Yes.
And they are apples. Because they've got apple DNA or whatever the apples have that makes them apples. They come from an apple orchard with apple trees from apple seeds. They are apples. Yeah? They don't require a mind engaging with it to call it apple for that appleness to be appleness. That's independent middle way. Yeah? In the mind only school, they're saying that all the causes and conditions that made that tree come up and that seed and pop this thing up there, and the one that's producing my eye consciousness to connect to that object and my kuntak to go apple, they are the same seed. They come from my mind. I never really touch that apple out there in the orchard tree. I don't really get to see. I'm only stuck in my construct of that thing through my lens at it. Yeah? Understanding that, going, oh, there ain't no apple other than that, is you had that realization of suchness there. And in the independent school, it's more subtle than that. They're saying, yeah, apple. They don't go into too much discussion, except into some of them lean into partless particles, yeah, and some of them lean onto the mind-only thinking. In the independent school, there's a couple of ways. There's actually more, but that's a way to group them. And they're saying, apple is the projections from a mind that's not crazy onto an apple that's an apple out there. When those two come together, you have apple. Realizing that there could never be an apple without that state of mind, or that apple, that's understanding the gaccha. Yeah? Now that is, how close is that to the highest view, prasangika? It's there now, right? This is so you could see how the Buddha's like, okay, get that, squeeze that. Like, there's no way we could have come to these understandings about the ultimate nature of things on our own accord. We have trouble with these, and we believe all sorts of these as we investigate where the ultimate nature of existence really comes from. So this is the final bridge, the lower four schools. Let me give you this in an analogy. The gaccha. This can apply to all those schools. Do you remember this thing, the metaphor of the magician?
Oh, yeah.
You hated it, right? Let's see how good you get at it. If those of you have been to Nepal, you've seen these magicians still exist from India. They come up and they do these incantations, these mantras, or they sprinkle this fairy dust or whatever. I've actually seen them at the base of what's this?
Pashupati?
Not Pashupati, the other place.
Swambunat.
Swambunat, yeah? And there's like a group of people around them, and they have something and they turn it into a snake. They throw a stick and they do this incantation, they turn it into a snake. I've used a different metaphor here. So the metaphor is this. There's a magician and there's a stick. Is that up there? Yeah, on the ground. Okay? And a group of people get around, sorry about that. A group of people come around and they see the stick. Yeah? And then his magic begins. He sprinkles the fairy or does the mantras, right? So says these words or sprays his thing. And all of a sudden, what happens to the stick? It turns into a horse. I put a cow, couldn't find a horse. Okay.
There's a cow in the scripture.
There is? There's a horse in the scripture. Okay. Good. It's a cow. Good.
That's a bull.
That's a bull? Someone help me. So everyone is under the spell, and the onlookers are looking at that object and they see cow, bull, or horse, depending which scripture or how much of a smartass you are. All of a sudden, someone that wasn't there pops in and says, "Who are all these people? Hey, who are all these people?" Right? What does that person see?
Oh, yeah.
What does that person see? They did not hear the incantation and they didn't get the spell. So they see stick. Congratulations, yeah? Are you with me so far? This is good. What does the magician see?
He sees the bull, but he knows it's a stick.
But he knows
He sees the bull, but knows
He's
it's a
bull.
Oh, he sees the bull. Why? Because he was there, he heard the words, he got the incantation. But he knows it's not a bull, or cow, or a horse, it's a stick. Okay, what's that got to do with the gaccha, the thing that emptiness is empty of, and the direct experience of selflessness, emptiness, lack of self-nature, to whatever degree the hell you want to go? What's that got to do with it? Well, so do you remember the metaphor?
Yes.
What is it?
The
Who is the magician?
Magician is someone who has had the perception of emptiness but is not in it in the moment, but knows that things do not have nature from their own, because he already
After the path of
like,
seeing.
yeah, he's after the path of seeing.
Nice. So the magician, I'm calling it a bodhisattva because he's doing it to a lot of people, yeah, is someone who has had the direct perception, saw the selflessness, whatever level you want to discuss, in whichever track you want to be. Oh, I saw that I am not the Wizard of Oz. I saw that there's no way the object in my mind could come from a separate karmic seed. I saw that the only way things exist is this combination of stuff out there in my mind, whether it be dog or thing, yeah, whatever level, yeah? Or the highest one, which we'll discuss next week, is the fact that absolutely nothing has a nature. Even the subtext has no nature, etc. I saw that. I know it's what it really is. It's a stick, but I am forced to perceive it as cow because I'm under the illusion. Yeah, I still have ignorance forcing me to see the mistake.
So then,
Yeah.
So then the guy that sees the stick,
What's the guy that's seeing the stick?
is he's in the
That's someone in the direct perception of emptiness. Yeah, only seeing things truly exist. Excellent. And then who are the people? Just us. We have no idea what's going on. We have not seen emptiness directly. We believe the cow is a cow even though it's really a stick. We think our life is coming this way even though it's coming this way. Or to whatever degree of selflessness you have. Is that cool? That's all you need to know. Promise you there's 5 more minutes and it's not too hard. You okay? I want to talk about the 3 scopes because these terms get confused. 3 scopes, 3 tracks, 3 vehicles, etc. So the 3 scopes. What's the lowest of the 3 scopes? Do you remember?
Lowest scope.
We talked about listeners and self-made Buddhas, and they are tracks. But what's the scope?
it's the person who practices to the motivation behind.
Just for themselves.
It's your motivation to do these practices, right?
only
The lowest
escape a
scope,
lower-
the lowest reason for doing any of this study is?
to escape a lower rebirth.
Yeah, so it's escape lower rebirth, right? So in the Wheel of Life over there, you have the 5-6 realms of existence, which are just 6 modes of beings. We can talk about that in a separate class. But the 3 lower realms are, being human is not the only mind on the planet, right? There are animals here too that have minds, yeah? Automated like we are, seem to be showing emotions and drives like we are. Even amoeba move towards things they like and don't like, and away from things they don't like, right? They are sentient beings. And these 2 modes that we can see directly, according to the Buddha, are not only beings in existence. If you have these 2, you could have a better, you could have worse. So they say there's 3 worse than being human, 3 worse existences, more lost in ignorance, more lost in misunderstanding the world, more suffering. Yeah, and these are hell realms, ghost realms, preta realms, or animal realms. States where beings have experiences that are worse than this temporal nice bad that we have. So one scope is I want to get out of samsara, so I want to get out of suffering, so I don't have to be any of those. I don't want to have a rebirth that's worse than the one I've got right now. That's one motivation, yeah? What's another one?
Permanently you get out of samsara.
Yeah, it's like I'm sick of the cycle of life and death. I don't want to... Sickle. Yeah, sickle. Yeah, thanks. That wasn't a pun on purpose, but that was funny. I'm sick of that sickle. Meaning my motivation for learning these degrees of selflessness, for understanding that ultimate nature, the passion to get out of this is just so I don't have to do not even another human life. I'm done. I can understand logically that if my mind stops today, it changes tomorrow, and then it begins again, and it could continue for no end. I understand the fact that my mind is here without beginning and without end. I don't want any more time in this uncertainty up and down where things could go wrong at any moment, where at some point I won't be able to control my hand. I'm done with it. I want out for my own sake. Yeah? And the third one?
It's for the sake of all sentient beings.
Different cycle. It's a cycle. It's like for everything, whatever our understanding of the universe is, for all these beings on the train, I want it for me and others. Right? So that's the 3 scopes. What are the 3 tracks? Yeah, listeners, which we talked about, is the way they understand selflessness is the subtle lack of a self to persons. Yeah, self-made Buddhas, the gross lack of a self to objects or things. Yeah, which is the mind-only perspective of emptiness, and the Bodhisattvas, which is the middle way, independent track that gets you to a subtle lack of a self nature to things. Yeah, which is this and that. And then the 3 yanas, they call them a low emptiness understanding. They like the 4 Arial truths. Yeah, this Hinayana, those people that have a limited understanding of that. The Mahayana, they call those 6 perfectionists, or the yanas of the 6 perfection. And then, this is a misnomer, it's not correct. These are not 3 tracks. These are 2 tracks, right? Because Vajrayana, or secret teachings, are part of the Mahayana, okay? So that's a misnomer.
Is that the same as Tantra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And then next week, I want to talk about these things, which Mr. Geshe Michael Roche did amazingly, that really tried, he went through a ton of scripture to try and give us all the different interpretations of existing substantially or constructed, and they mean all sorts of different things. You can get a quick glimpse of this one. They'll make sense based on everything we've studied. I thought it'd be nice to put their plus on your homework. Based on that,
I have a question about the yanas.
yeah.
So does that mean that you have to both have the direct perception of emptiness and bodhicitta to practice the highest vehicle?
Yeah, so yes. Okay. What else did I want to say? Oh, I wanted to tell you about that problem I had. You know when we do prostrations at the beginning of class? I hated doing them at the beginning. It looked so stupid. I was very embarrassed. Yeah? Like all these weirdos going blah, 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 blah. And I would stand there and going, I'm not doing it. Yeah? For about a year. Seriously. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Plus, they told me I shouldn't do it if I didn't feel it. Yeah? And I didn't feel it, so I wasn't doing it. But I felt weird just standing there while everybody was doing it. And then there was a point where the first time some special change happened in my mind that I dropped to the ground on almost involuntarily, like I needed to drop to the ground to say, wow, I got something so altering from the teachings that I just dropped to my knees. And I understood, maybe for the first time for me, that act of prostration is humbling in a magnificent way. And I never did it to copy anyone up until that point where I did it naturally. Then I did it preciously from then on. Yeah, and so that was like 20 years ago. And since then, I've probably had maybe 4 or 5 occasions where my knees gave way and I was forced to drop to my knees, either out of frustration that life wasn't working the way I was trying to make it work, or out of elation that all this hard work to try and understand these things that seem so foreign make sense in a way that I never expected them to make sense so beautifully, and colored everything and gave me enough fuel to continue through doubt and concern and life. You know, when things are going good, you sort of forget to practice. So today I had another occasion where I dropped like that, and I want to share it with you. You know, we've been looking for a location to move the 3 jewels. And the owners of the new location, we've been fighting since the end of 2015 that they would do it. Can afford it. It's a lot of work and a lot of energy's got in, and I didn't realize how much I'd invested myself and all of us into a good result there, and we're that close. Yeah, the lawyers have the final draft of the 2,000 million words that go to a stupid lease that define whether or not you could fart to the left of the toilet or not. So we've gone to all this work in detail, and I get a call this morning before prepping for class that they can't do it, that we can't move, that they won't accept our offer. So I didn't know how invested I was until I was gutted, really felt gutted. So I said, I started crying, and I didn't know I was going to cry. It was like this horrible thing. And then I remembered what I'm supposed to teach you, which is there's nothing that happens without a cause. There's nothing that we don't share collectively if it affects us collectively, and that the whole emotion and investment and the way I was seeing it was somehow self-existent. That's the only way I would feel pain about it, right? Rather than having a valid experience of why that would occur, and the instinct would be to immediately act in the opposite way. Yeah, what could be causing this place, myself, to be rejected from having a space where we could offer beautiful teachings? So ignorance came to mind, yeah, and all the times I've been stingy with other people around realizations and knowledge and space and the rest. And so I remembered my teacher, and I went and did immediately what I was supposed to do. So maybe it took me like 2 minutes or something from the phone call to remembering what I should be doing. So I went and did the right meditation and some rituals and so on, and I said, I just got to teach. That's all I got to do. So I prepared what I prepared for you today. And then before coming over, I got a phone call, and they said, we changed our mind. And we can do it just as is. We can do it just like that.
Check your phone. Do you have any missed calls?
So I just want to say, I can't tell that to anybody, just anybody, and them understand. So when I got the phone call, my knees gave way, and I just prostrated again to really the beings that I'd invited early on to really teach me where the problem is, to help me. I went back and I rejoiced at every moment that I'd given space or dharma to anybody. I purified any moment where I'd been stingy or and I worked my ass off internally in a way that was really natural and beautiful and aligned to what we're teaching. And it turned out good. I haven't signed anything.
Yeah, nothing's signed yet.
No, but the fact, it made me realize an important lesson, which is this is what it's for. This stuff we're learning, this is what it's for. I could have just argued with them, bribed them. I didn't do anything. I said, that's it, we can't do it. Okay, we can't do it. And then I went, I have to get to the real courses. So, looks like we might have a space. Let's dedicate it. And let's, I wanted to give you a little bit of
like never gonna believe that space until we're actually
in it. I know. It was very traumatic. Yeah. I didn't know how much I was in it until I broke down.
That was a roller coaster of emotions out there.
Yeah, it was. I just wanted to share it. I'd spent a whole day roller coastering. You got 2 minutes. Enjoy. It was my offering. Yeah. Bukir Jishin Metotram Rirabling Shin Yindempadi Samde Shindu Mide Buargi idam uru ratna mandala kam niryatayami. Sunam yeshe zokzokshin. Sunam yeshe lejunwe. Dampa punito pasho. Thank you so much for sharing these precious last classes, for this incredible thing. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I plan to, but there's no Wizard of Oz here. Oh, I'm gonna change that. Where was it? Sickle.
So, are we gonna sign?